Hello, and welcome to Life Rhythms, Tarot, Food, and Spirit. This evening I'm at my mother's home in northern New Jersey, and as some of you who have been following me for a while know, I had primarily been staying here from, I'd say, August 2016 through till June of this year, as I had undergone some pretty major surgeries and then undergone some chemotherapy in relation to the breast cancer that I'm dealing with. And so my recovery and a lot of my care have been primarily here at my mother's home. But as I had started to become much stronger and more, desiring to get back into the flow of my life with my partner, in June I began to return to my home in Brooklyn and re-establish myself there. And so now I travel to my mother's once a month for about a week, and I have treatment here still in New Jersey. And last night I was just thinking about, traveling back and forth, that transition, even though both places are really my homes in one way or another. But I have things that I want to carry with me to and from each place that I don't want to leave in one place or another. So I was thinking, what do other people carry with them when they travel? What do other practitioners carry with them? Do you have a medicine bag, if you will? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and see if some of you guys would speak to that. If you travel for your work, or if you travel regularly, say to another home or to visit family, or even if you just travel once in a while, what you definitely need to carry with you to stay connected in the ways that you like to stay connected to practice. And I also wanted to do it in the evening because some of you guys have been sharing some of your bedtime rituals, so I thought I would do maybe a little bit of mashup with those two things. So some of the things that I carry with me are a few tarot decks, and of course, actually, I definitely always carry my small version of the Thoth Tarot, and that is one that I started to work with a couple years ago, and in the large format. And when I really realized that this was a deck and a system that, for a lot of reasons that I have connection to, I decided to get the small format for just the ease of having a larger spread. Sometimes if I was working with more cards or different decks and things like that, and also easier to travel with than the larger deck. The other deck that I carry back and forth with me is actually the Oracle of Oddities, which is a deck that I've talked about before, and I know that some of you, or perhaps many of you, use. And I was actually really surprised by how connected I have been to this deck. So I'm very moved by it. In fact, so much so that when it became possible to get a copy of the first edition, which I don't have, this is the second and third editions. when they were being reprinted just this last autumn, and proceeds going to Puerto Rico for the hurricane relief. I jumped on that and have a deck, I actually think, waiting at home in Brooklyn for me. So I'm excited to get back there for that. And I'm also working a lot, as many of you know who follow me on IG, at Bone Root and Herb, with the Marielle deck. And so that has been traveling back and forth with me since October. Like I said, it's just a couple months. It's been 3 trips, though. I've carried it back and forth. The other thing I definitely recreated in some way, shape, or form, I always have a small altar here. I can't really move the camera so easily here. It's a very old desk that I grew up with, this old wooden desk that is even much older than me. I don't know. It might be a desk from the 40s or something like that. And that serves as my little altar here. And every month I work with a different card as a guide, one of the practices that I have. And for November it's been the High Priestess. So I've taken some of the cards from my altar in Brooklyn and recreated that altar here. And this is actually the High Priestess. I don't think I had shown this, but I've recently shown this deck a few times. The Dream Dust Shamanic Tarot, Sue Kovacs. Just a stunning deck. And as I told the story a couple of videos back, this was a deck that was gifted to me, and my mom actually connected with it quite a bit, and that was one that I didn't want to carry back and forth because I also wanted her to be able to have it here. And so I actually have a deck here that stays here. So that's some of the things that always anchor me in this going back and forth. It's so important to be able to find ways to anchor yourself if you're traveling, if you're moving. Especially, I've found, if you're moving around for reasons that are maybe less than desirable reasons, it's never so comforting for me to come back here and know that I'm going for treatment and things of that nature. So, how do you ground yourself if you yourself know that you're moving into situations that are potentially ungrounding or discomforting? Some of the other things that I carry with me all the time, well, I've always got my mala beads, and I also have several sets of mala beads here that stay here. But I have also, as many of you have seen, my snake. And the snake is definitely one of my spirit animals, totem for me, lifelong, really. And even before I knew that snake was my animal in Chinese astrology, born in the year of the snake. And then this is a fantastic pillow that I got last year when I was having to create kind of my bedroom here at my mother's home. I actually created it in such a different way than my bedroom at home in Brooklyn. I have these elephant pillows here. I don't know if you can see them in the background, and kind of paisleys and things like this. Very different from my home in Brooklyn. And then, of course, I have a few crystals that I have always carry with me, and I have a kyanite wand here, and a hematite heart, which I've shown a larger version of this. Kyanite is something that's always with me, and then my smoky crystal wand that again shows up in a lot of my Instagram pictures. And then kind of another thing that I do carry back and forth, of course, is my journal. I've had a journal going on for myself my whole life, really, since I was 12. And so this is something that I carry back and forth, and I keep it near me at night so I can have access to it in the morning, or if I wake in the middle of the night and feel like I need to download something. So in a way, this dovetails a little into my nighttime rituals, which I'm sipping on a cup of tea right now, but it's actually, sometimes it's tea and sometimes it's a hot toddy. Tonight it is a hot toddy. So kind of just a letting down from like having landed here this week, and then the big holiday and all people around yesterday, and it being, high emotions all day yesterday with family and holiday kind of thing. So this evening I'm relaxing with some bedtime tea with a little bit of, actually it's bourbon in there, not whiskey. That's really good. I'm going to sleep well tonight. And so I'll do some writing before I sleep. I'll sip on something warm, do some writing. I always actually take a hot cloth and wipe my feet down to bring my energy, pull my energy down to the ground and into my body, especially if I've been doing a lot of work and writing and things like that, or communicating a lot with people, and energy very high up in the body. So warm cloth on my feet and rub some warm oil on my feet, or oil that's been warmed up in my hands really, and then put socks on, and always keeping my feet warm even in the summer. That's just something that I've needed to do since undergoing treatment and having surgeries. My body is definitely a little bit more penetrable, so skin and nerves and senses a little bit thinner. So if you're someone who has a lot of nervous energy, or works a lot with your head and hands and writing and talking with people and working with other people's energies, definitely grounding down through your feet is such a terrific and easing in evening practice. Some of the other rituals that I'll do is just reconnecting through being at the altar, lighting my candle, maybe some incense, and having some quiet moments with that as best I can. And one of the reasons I wanted to offer this video is, in some ways, I'm reminding myself of some of these rituals, because I definitely have gotten caught up in a lot of really a high vibrating energy with the traveling back and forth and getting myself landed in one place or the other. So I definitely have not had, I've definitely fallen out of really good sleep routine. So in some way I'm recommitting to that by also offering and sharing this video. So having something warm, spending some time at my altar, doing some writing, clearing the energy out through my feet by taking a warm cloth to them and rubbing some oil into my feet and putting some warm socks on. And then the other thing, especially this time of year as we're moving into winter now, even though it's still been relatively mild, but it is getting chillier, especially out here in the country. It's usually at least a good 5 or so, sometimes 10 degrees cooler here. I've always got a hat. So I ended up with a big collection of hats when I went through chemotherapy last year. I didn't ever have a wig. I didn't do scarves on my head. I just always had hats, and I've landed with this fabulous collection of hats. So I will often sleep with something on, so I keep my feet and my head and also my neck really warm when I sleep. So again, if you're someone, I'm very lucky. Even through all I've been through, my immune system is very good. I haven't become ill in any other way. No colds, no flus, no even sniffles, and perhaps in some way it's a combination of the integrity that I had at least built up in my immune system and also some of these habits. So if you're somebody who does tend to perhaps get colds and things like this, maybe consider some of these things as well, keeping the neck warm, the head, the feet, especially when you're resting, when the body temperature really goes down. And you will lay in bed for a little bit, and if I'm not conked out in the immediate, just will lay my hands on and do a little bit of self Reiki treatment for myself. Again, something I'm very much reminding myself, remembering for myself as I'm recommitting to getting back into some better sleep hygiene. And in some ways, most of that is about me getting to bed at a better hour. So I haven't, because I've fallen out of some of these habits because of the traveling back and forth, my energy doesn't come down. So I find myself up until 12, 1, 2 in the morning. And this is highly unusual behavior for me. I've always been an early to bed, early to rise type of person. So I definitely don't want to continue that into the winter. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to share with you. It's not a whole bunch, but in some ways it's, if anybody would love to respond about things that you might carry with you when you travel, decks or crystals or any particular totems or rituals that you have around traveling, when you're going to a place known or unknown for a few days, if you're away from your normal environment. And then also just sharing a little bit about my recommitment to my bedtime rituals, and in response to some of you sharing yours. So on that note, I'm going to finish my beautiful tea toddy here and start to wind the winding down process for myself, and I will report back with other shares as I am always inspired by all things that I see and hear from all the sharing in the community. So until we meet again, rest well and be well, and have a good evening.